Alrighty, this is a VOD submission recording for Dragon Valor. This is a side-scrolling fantasy RPG in the style of a beat-em-up made by Namco back for the PlayStation 1. I'll go ahead and explain things as we go, but I do just want to kind of go ahead and get things rolling. This will be recorded on emulator just because discs wear out over time, and I don't want to, be stressed about damaging a disc during a recording. But I do have all the hardware available to run this on hardware, so if that's any concern, don't worry about that. I have all that stuff. But let's go ahead and get this kicked off in 3, 2, 1, go. So the basic premise of Dragon Valor here is dragons are evil. There are no good dragons in the world. They're all terrible, evil monsters. And Dragon Valors are basically dragon slayers. They hunt down and they fight dragons. And we start the game here with one of them getting killed. So we take on the role of Clovis, who is a young boy at the village that Valor was trying to save, but failed at saving. And so as we go through here, we go through this opening tutorial. First thing to notice is that the music here is amazing. And you'll notice that I'm using a lot of jumping attacks and jumping combination. This game actually has a really good mix of fighting game mechanics, or not fighting game mechanics, but just battle mechanics in general. You'll see here we have double jumping, we have a lot of maneuverability, there's a dash attack, there's button combinations to unique attacks, and the cool thing about this game is that they work in the crouch and run mechanics into some of the combos or the buttons. So right here, to get under here quickly, instead of just crouching down like normal, I'm going to tap the crouch button. It's going to lunge in through here. And right here, these bats are a little tricky, but if I hold down the crouch button and jump right there, I'll do what's called a rising impale, and I'll go up. I am the former world record holder for this game. I've since been beaten by Uberfate, awesome guy, part of the community. I've made a couple attempts to take my record back, but unfortunately just haven't had the time with a lot of life stuff going on. But I want to bring this to the attention of a lot of folks because I feel like there's like 5 people in the community, and there could be more. This could be a really good game to bring the people's attention. Bad RNG right there. So enemy AI works off RNG and a lot of reactionary commands based off position. So a lot of this can be mitigated through positioning. Unfortunately, some of my attention will be split as we go through here. I am going to go ahead and do a quick menu open up, and we'll introduce you to the magic system. So you get 8 spells throughout the game of varying levels. Every time you collect one of those little colored tomes that I just picked up there, you'll obtain a new type of magic. If you get another one of the same color, you will then get a level up to that magic. All magic can go up to level 3. However, not all 3 storylines get access to all level 3 magic. There are 3 main paths in this game. They're all referred to by the magic sword most influential to their route. So in the lore of the game, there are 3 main magic swords: Kadam, Azel, and Soul. This route I'm running for the purposes of the submission is Kadam. It is currently the fastest known route, just because of a lot of exploits that we'll be making later with particular magic Fire 3. And we'll get into that later. We're already at our first dragon boss. 3 minutes in, we're already at our first boss. So this fight's pretty simple. This is your introduction to learning how the dragons and bosses work in weak spots. So Rage's weakness is his head. Go figure. And so we're going to do a little bit of attack manipulation here. So every time I hit his head, I get a reaction in the terms of this long animation that has a retaliation. There is a way to skip this, however, it's a little difficult. But if we can skip out of that fire animation, there we go, and Rage is down. And under 5 minutes, we've already defeated our first boss. It's just that easy, kids. Just pick up a magic sword and you fight dragons. So at the end of every chapter, we're going to have an option here to save. Since I'm on emulator, this will run a a save check. I have backup saves here just in case I can do the same backups on hardware, just in case something happens at the event where the console loses power. I will have backup saves available, so that way we don't have to repeat the entire game. We can pick up and just load from a chapter. Those are our only save points, though. If I was running for a serious speed run attempt, I would not have a memory card inserted into the console. That would give me a faster option to skip and skip the whole save prompt. It's like no memory card detected, basically instantly, and we move on. We got some bad RNG here on the doggos, but he stopped to do some fire breath right there, so a little bit better. Yeah, these dogs' attacks are entirely RNG, and this is the bad pattern right here, but thankfully I've gotten enough, or unthankfully, to where I can just kind of work my way around it. Here we have our first instances of some upgrades that we're going to have available to us. So these 3 enemies right here, these 3 warriors that I'm about to fight, I'll defeat them using different methods. So the finishing hit of whether or not you defeat an enemy with magic or with your sword goes into determining what type of pickup you get. If you defeat enough enemies with your sword, you'll get that strength pickup. If the finishing blow is with magic here, you'll get a scroll and it'll increase your MP count. There is a hidden counter in the back of the game, and basically every time you kill X amount of enemies on each one of our valors here with whichever method, it'll go towards whether or not that enemy will drop a regular drop or one of those upgrade drops. Those upgrade drops do not persist through generations, and we'll get to generations here in a second. But they are important to each generation's progression. So here's our first look at the overworld. If you notice there, I kind of sprinted to my next location. That's because I pushed start on the overworld. Believe it or not, it doubles your movement speed. You don't directly control your character on the movement screen. You choose the destination, but you can literally speed up that animation by pressing start. Sorry, talking and fighting at the same time. Little difficult. But yeah, you could speed that up and save a lot of time as you go through here. Music in this game is amazing. But as we go through the generations with our upgrades and our pickups, you'll notice, yeah, bad RNG right there. It's just faster to run through here though. That will get stronger. And then when I say we get to progress through generations, you get a glimpse of that from the prologue to chapter 1 here. So if you notice, Clovis has since upgraded his kit from the time when he defeated Rage. Years have passed and he's become more of an experienced fighter. He's picked up a shield. He's added some armor to his arsenal. He's geared up and become an experienced fighter. And that reflects in his playstyle and in his equipment. And that shield actually has a purpose. When you play as a descendant with a shield, their block radius kind of increases and they block the shield. And it's interesting to note. But Rhino Men are also interesting to note. We're just going to put them down with some fire attacks here. And then we're going to pick up our next upgrade here, Mind Magic. Going to go ahead and switch to it. Mind Magic's really cool. We'll use it a lot during the run until we get Fire 3, and even afterwards, we'll still use it. So moving on to Raxus City, you saw there I got to show off the little bit of a speed up right there. Moving on through Raxus City, you'll see as we progress. You know, we don't just fight in forests or empty forts. You know, there are a ton of different environments here, and there's a couple different things you notice with the camera. And this is, I don't know, this game's hard to describe. When I describe it as a 3D action beat 'em up, that's the easiest way for me to describe it, like an action beat 'em up RPG. Because there's RPG elements in here, there's obvious 2D fighter, you know, what am I trying to say? Elements. But there's also like 3D platformer elements in here too. This game was really an interesting game, and it's not like it comes from nowhere. This game has a storied history with Namco. Like it's like the fifth game in the series, and since hasn't gotten any other re-releases. And pick up this magic, drop right here and avoid those explosions. That's not the last we'll see of those. This game also has hidden pickups here, so I'm going to cut back here and grab this chalice that's hidden right here. That'll give me a +8 to my maximum HP count. Add some safety to the run as I go ahead and fight this lizard man. sometimes they can be rather unpleasant. That one dropped a mushroom for me. Unlike Mario, mushrooms are no good here. They don't increase any aspects of my strength or anything, and as a matter of fact, they damage me. They deal, I think, like 3 damage, and they increase my MP count by 1. So a pretty awful trait because they also make me trudge around and go slow. The story in this game is actually really good too. I know I've just been pressing start to blow through it. We're about to get a major stopping point here, which is shops. Shops are notorious. You can't skip shops. I would put out a hard bounty for anybody who could find a way to skip these shop segments, because the text scroll is terrible. It's super slow. I can't mash through any of it. You have to say no thanks, and even though I say no thanks, you have a conversation with the shopkeeper. Just waste time, and there's a lot of mandatory shops throughout the way. So we're coming up on our first major fork in the road here after Rax's Castle. We'll get the castle proper, and we'll be able to make our first decision to determine which route we take through the game. Obviously, we're going to take the Kadam route, and I'll explain how that's done later. But for now, let's go ahead and run through the woods. This game also feels amazing to play, by the way. Like, back when I was young and I first played this, it was like one of my first games. Like, oh, I like action games. The controls are tight. There's a lot of cool inputs to do. I haven't even tapped into a lot of the combat elements here. You can cancel out in the back dashes and get iframes for certain attacks. You can really get into it. But right now, here at the beginning, I'm just going to go ahead and beat up these poor orcs. Never saw it coming. So as I'm moving through these segments here, it really is just about trying to optimize cutting these corners as quickly as possible, navigating through here, picking up what you can. That crate's got MP up. That crate's got money in it. Money's not really important in this game, since we never shop. Here's our first instance of intentional blocking. So to block in this game, you'll hold the neutral input. There we go. Put down some mind magic for some multi-account. One of the doggos got away here. These are not good boys. These are, in fact, bad boys. But since we got another amount of kills with magic, we got another upgrade to our MP count, and we just picked up heal magic. Heal magic becomes important later. I'm going to pick up this HP right here. So when the music stops right there, I'm supposed to stop in place. And I can't move anymore. But if you're in air, you can keep moving. So that's a way to get to those potions. It costs a little bit of time for the safety of the run for the marathon. I will occasionally do that just to make sure I'm going through here. Here at Rax's Castle, we'll get our first instance of progression that is tied to a specific enemy as opposed to all enemies. So right here, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner that enemy counter. That enemy counter tells me how many enemies I need to defeat before I can progress to the next section. The reason it said 1 there is I needed to kill that one specific knight to get that key to open up this door. I can say goodbye to everybody else. Fighting everybody is slow. And this room is important because it determines your route. If you cut to the right here, you'll find the princess and save her. However, saving the princess is slow, so we don't save the princess. We're here to kill dragons, not pick up chicks. So we're gonna go ahead and move on and fight these enemies here to progress to our first boss of this chapter, Volef. Misplacement on the mind magic there, but it will detonate and hit that guy just a little bit slower than if I were to get it to move correctly. There's a bit of a delay in using the magic. Got an MP pick up there. That's great. And this boss is going to be our first abuse of humanoid boss for magic purposes. So humanoid bosses and monster bosses vary differently in the way that they react to damage. Specifically, humanoid bosses love to do this thing where they just get airtime, man. They just love to fly. They are high flyers. And so to adapt for that, we do a couple different things to manipulate their AI. Volef here is a bit of a jerk. And then sometimes that'll happen where they block. That kind of messes with my timing a little bit, but it's okay, because we could just go from there. A bit unlucky with that one timing of an attack, but all in all, a decent fight. That's generally how you want it to go. Not just for Volef, but the other humans. There are a couple humanoid bosses throughout the game that have magic resistance. We tackle them differently. Unfortunately, not all of them can just be blown up like that, but that's the easiest method to handle your problems, blow them up. Sorry, if you catch my head bobbing, it's just some of these are certified bops. This game is not very well known. It gets kind of a bad rap. Kind of a pattern with the games I speedrun. It gets a bad rap for being simplistic or boring, but the game actually has a lot of deep tech to it. It's just that none of that tech is relevant to the completion of the game. You can get through this game by getting through like regular slash combos and not understanding any of the super moves that you can do. Yes, this game has super moves, but you can generally get through it. A downside to emulation is I haven't figured out how to get the analog stick to work. On console here, what I can do is I can use the analog stick to navigate up these steps, and I'll do that in my run proper. But basically what it allows me to do is it allows me to run at angles on analog stick that I can't do on D-pad. So on D-pad, I kind of have to flicker right here to make sure I stay on the steps, because if I don't, this is 3D geometry. I will not just like hit invisible wall and stay up here. I will fall and have to run up the steps again. Thankfully, I did not do that. This flesh demon here is going to be my first instance of dash locking. Missed it. So that dash attack right there will basically put enemies in a stun state, and the idea there is to, like that, make it to where they can't get iframes, because if you put allow enemies to have iframes, they'll take forever to recover, and you won't be able to hurt them until they stop blinking. If you dash slash like that, though, you will prevent them from getting iframes and be able to continue your combo basically indefinitely. Unfortunately, I couldn't show that off during the VOD, but it is what it is. Ryman decided to run off today. This one's another trigger enemy. He's resistant to all types of magic, but we have ways of dealing with that. He also adapts to your attack styles. So if you do 3 of the uppers or the dashes, he will reset and not allow you to do that again. However, if you just take 1 reset swipe, you will then be able to take him down relatively easy. Getting behind him makes it to where he can't block attacks, so we try to position ourselves behind him strategically. That yellow tome I just picked up is for defense magic. We don't use it at all during the run, but it is pretty cool. It makes your sword bigger, it makes you take less damage. Like, gameplay-wise, it's fun for a standard playthrough, but we're here to go fast. Fun fact about that tome, it actually drops on the opposite side of the room that Raimon dies on, so if he dies on the left side of the room, it'll drop it on the right, and vice versa. So making our way to the catacombs here, we're actually nearing the end of our first chapter. There are about 5 chapters in the game total, no matter what route you take. And we have our first introduction to puzzle elements, so you can grab blocks and move them, pull them onto switches. I don't know who did it first, if it was Ocarina of Time. Well, never mind. I guess Link to the Past did it first, so clear Link to the Past influences there with that kind of gameplay design. These skeletons are impossible to kill unless you have level 2 or higher heal magic, but since we don't have any of that right now, we're going to skip past it. So one of the pickups you saw me pick up on the staircase there, since we're running, was an item called a lithograph. And what it was is an item that increases your MP by 1. And you might be thinking, well, that's not nearly as good as scrolls. Why'd you pick it up? And that's because lithographs persist through generations. We're about to move on to our next lineage character. So after this, Clovis will get married. He will have a, in this case, a son, and you will then play as the son in the next chapter. And items such as rings and lithographs and pendants there that have very minor stat increases persist through generations, where scrolls and chalices do not. Neither do the strength gems. So knowing what persists through generations and what doesn't can also influence your run, and that stuff can accumulate over time and increase your power and make runs a little more safe. That's why I took the extra time to grab that pendant there. We're on to Volef Revived here. So again, he's revived and he has a much more annoying set of attacks, but again, we're just gonna go ahead and go back through there. So there's our own iframes right there. That backflip attack. And we're gonna use a specific combination here. So we're gonna slash backflip every time we blow up Volef. And that's to get away from this auto counter he can do. It's random whether or not he does it, but it's best to prep. So what we do is we blow him up, we wait for him to land on the ground, get in 2 slashes, and then we backflip just for safety. And then input is just by pressing the jump input. After you attack, you'll jump backwards, you go to iframes. We have stealth magic now. Forgot to hit my split. Oops. It's okay. I'm not expecting to set any world records here. I am just recording this VOD for purposes, for submission purposes. So we're on to our second dragon here, Titan. Titan is an interesting dragon, and you can get him basically set lock into a pattern. Starting attack, not good there. Sometimes he does this really long-winded, like wind up. This is what I was looking for here. This will be our setup for the attack. So you hit his tail as his weak spot, and here's, you kind of manipulate here after this, right here. You go, you run, jump, and you slash, and you hit his tail. And the idea here is, since that does almost a quarter of his damage every time you hit him like that, the idea is to lock him into this. He does have a form too, but if we keep hitting this weak spot and triggering this auto retaliation move, what we can do is lock him into this indefinitely. Unfortunately, I missed it that time. Timing is very tight. So now we're in phase 2 here. You can see a couple of attacks. Idea is still the same though. We do still want to hit this tail. So sometimes this can happen. If it does happen, it is rather unfortunate. His hitbox is a little wide, especially right there next to his leg. Getting the show off Titan's backup strats there. Not nearly as fast as if I were to lock him out of getting to phase 2 transition, but it is what it is. And that's Titan down. He releases little baby dragon. Clovis gets mad, says he'll hunt it to the ends of the earth, but ultimately ages out of being able to do that. So he marries Carolina, has a son Codell, and then we move on to chapter 2. Game really is ahead of its time with its ability to skip cutscenes. I also love the burning effect they add to when you skip a cutscene like that, just to fill in time until the scene loads in. So Codell here is a ruffian. He's a treasure hunter who picks on pirates. He also fights a little differently. So you notice here he doesn't have a shield like his father had, going back to the one-handed fighting style that Clovis had at the beginning of the game. But you notice that his third swing is a huge wide arc. Every time we progress the generations, our Dragon Valor's fighting styles will change ever so slightly to reflect their upbringing. So if I would have saved the princess and had my son be the prince, like you can in the Soul route, instead of this unruly, self-taught fighting style, our character would instead have a much more refined, noble upbringing fighting style with an overhead slash attack for his third hit. So I really do like the little details that this game brings to the table when it comes to distinguishing, you know, the differences of upbringing and, you know, the characters, and giving them all unique identities in the way that they learn how to fight. Over here we have another instance of a room where I don't have to kill every enemy, so we're gonna go ahead, and the assassins are being a little unruly today, but we're gonna blow that one up. Good to show off that cool manipulation there. That assassin just went for the wildest ride of his life, flying across the screen and into the wall because of the mind magic explosion. I hope you enjoyed that. Always get a chuckle. grab the T. Your run isn't validated if you don't grab that swag T. I don't make the rules. That's just the community thing. And in this room, we're going to show off that stage hazards can be used to turn fights in your favor. So if you notice right there, that assassin and this warrior are taking damage from these traps. They're getting shot by their own traps, and it's really, really cool to see. A bit of a backflip there to avoid that damage as we grab this Violet Tome. The Violet Tome has gravity magic, is really cool. I never use it. It's never used in the run. There's no purpose in it, unfortunately. It groups up enemies for you. I could see like maybe one instance of it, but the range of the gravity effect is not wide enough to become useful until you get to level 3. And unfortunately, I think that's the only instance of gravity magic you get in this route. So we're just cruising right along here. It's been 25 minutes and, you know, making steady progress. The levels are short and sweet, short enough to make an impact while also being long enough to engage players. Really nice balance here. Making use of mind magic here, that bounce up effect is going to be used a lot, especially on humanoid enemies. Any instance where you can do double damage to an enemy, or 2 instances of free large damage, we're going to take it. A lot of the other spells only hit once, but later on we'll show you some other spells that really get to make use of that extra damage. And because magic is so important in this run, we do try to take any instance we can to use it. When the run was starting off, back when it was an hour longer than what it is now, we used magic much less frequently. It was like it was a resource to be hoarded, essentially, instead of a resource to be used. By the way, annoying pirates right here. The big pirates have what I refer to lovingly as invisible iframes. So most enemies will blink when they have iframes to indicate to the player, it's like, hey, you can try to hit this guy, but you're not going to hurt him. He's invincible. The pirates, when they get up, don't have those blinking animations for some reason. It's not an emulation bug either. It does happen on console, and we don't know why. It's just how they're programmed, and it's annoying because you'll go to attack them and think that you have the opportunity to attack, and no, we lied. No attacking for you. Backflip through this guy's knife throw. And I think the big pirates bullied the little pirates into stealing their iframes because those guys have like 1 frame of invincibility. So I'm pretty sure the big guys bullied the little guys for their iframes, stole them from them because aside from one of their enemies, they have the least amount of iframes in the game when it comes to being invincible after being knocked down. Starfish here are kind of the bane of early game runs here. They have incredibly low to the ground hitboxes. They're obnoxiously small. And they deal an okay amount of damage. So they are just annoying to deal with. You'll notice there I took a hit from one of them thinking I got them all. Thunder magic. And so you'll see in this next section here how painfully slow they can be. Unfortunately, there's no faster way to get around them. You just kind of have to impale them. And I'll go over those impale attacks here in a second. So here we meet the love interest of Chapter 2, Fauna. She is the daughter of a notorious pirate, but oh no, we're attacked by knights. Lightning magic, you know, works really good on people in armor. Instant kills that otherwise very powerful knight. I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to mind magic here. More starfish. So this impale attack I've been doing right here with the little shockwave, how it's done is there are 2 versions of it. There's hammer blow, which is executed by pressing crouch in the air after doing a single jump, or impale here, which emits that shockwave, which is executed by doing a double jump and then pressing the crouch button while in midair. Very subtle but very unique use cases for both of them. Impale does an AoE, but it has less knockback, while hammer blow really does a lot of knockback, good amount of damage. Again, we don't fight pirates, we don't need to fight. So I'm just going to run past those guys, pick up an MP, pick up while we're there. And speaking of iframes there, you can backflip to get through these spike traps right here to get caught unawares. Again, another instance of combat mechanics to get through navigation or traps. Another really cool technical instance of this game that I felt like was overlooked in the past. That melee attack combo right there, by the way, I think is the most powerful one you can do in the game. The way it's executed is you do 2 attacks, and then you press crouch and attack, and you'll do an upward swing. You'll knock your enemy up in the air, and then you hold down the crouch button right there and press jump, and you'll do what's called a rising impale. You might have seen me do it during the prologue chapter against that bat. For the keenly observant. Switch back to mind magic here. Now here in this cutscene we're skipping here, a ghost comes out of that Imperial Armor Knight, and turns out it's a spooky ghost, and it takes the soul of Fauna. Her dad's not too keen on thinking that it was us who stole her soul though, Robert, so he's going to fight us by throwing explosives. This is going to be a very explosive match. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. He does laugh every time he throws explosives at us, which isn't cool. But he does operate in a very set pattern. The first time he throws explosives, he has iframes for 2 throws here. And then the second time, he doesn't have iframes in between them. So this should be our last hit there. Robert's down. Sorry, bro. We then explain the situation that we did not steal his daughter's soul as he's mourning, and instead it turns out that our dear old dad, Clovis, in fact has gone mad and sent the spirit to steal Fauna's soul as a message to Robert, basically telling him that he has gone mad and Robert needs to stop him. It turns out that our dad knew that the curse of the dragon cursed him basically with rage, and eventually the sword, while keeping it at bay, would not help him forever. So he goes mad and consumed by rage, and he's asked Robert, if I go mad, please come and stop me. Well, after beating up Robert, he's not in a real good place to go fight a Dragon Valor. So instead, we decide to go fight him because, hey, we got words for our dad about why he abandoned mom and why he is a no-show dad. So we're going to go take him on in Robert's place. So we get through the mines here and we get our first instances of an enemy called zombies. And I mean, they're not just an enemy called zombies, they are zombies. They're slow, they're lumbering, they take a lot of hits, and unfortunately they have a terrible mechanic to them. And what I mean by terrible mechanic is in terms of a speedrunning sense. So once you get a zombie down to a certain HP threshold, they'll split in half like that. And when they split in half like that, it's very slow, they get iframes, and they go down. However, if you do the right amount of damage to them, before they can go into that animation, you can kill them before they take that long iframe fall in half animation there. So this entire time I will try to, during my encounters with zombies, if I don't fall, yeah, fell a little bit there. Get to show off this goofy collision on this wall. The 3D navigation in this game is a little jank sometimes, but I will be taking my time to try to kill these zombies as fast as possible by damaging them in very intentional ways. So I'm gonna gather these zombos up, and then we're going to hit a poison mushroom. So there's our first instance of accidentally hitting a poison mushroom. It will not be the last one. These zombies also, on top of being slow and annoying to fight, have a chance to drop mushrooms when you defeat them. So that crystal pickup there is now going to make this a little more complicated, because since it increases my strength, I now have to change what attacks I use on these zombies in what order to make sure I can still kill them quickly. First instances of platform skip there, and if the keen-eyed, you might have noticed that I doubled back there for a second. This lets me talk about another mechanic of this game that doesn't really get considered much, but is integral to making sure that you get through things quickly and safely, and that's the way this game handles inertia. So the way this game operates with movement specifically, essentially the way it works is every time you jump, you take your jump inertia and you apply it. Like no brainer. If you're moving at run speed and you jump at run speed. However, there is about a 2 to 3 frame startup from standstill to run, where you will get stuck in what's called walk inertia. And if you are stuck in walk inertia and you try to jump during that time, you will jump at walk inertia. So if you jump within the first 2 or 3 frames of a jump, you will jump hella slow. That's an industry term, and it will make things very unpleasant. You will go to jump and you will not have nearly the speed you need to make that jump. So every single one of these gap jumps I make at run speed is very intentional, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. Another block puzzle here. We're gonna go ahead and manipulate these blocks to try to make this jump in the least amount of push as possible. Oop, accidental input right there. Clipped one of the mushrooms. There is a safe spot you can land right there, right between those 2 mushrooms, and if you jump again right afterwards, you won't hit one of them. Unfortunately, I did not make it, but that's okay. Here's Rock-chan again. I lovingly refer to this guy as Rock-chan, just because you bully him so much, you just feel bad for him. And we're through the mines. There's still more tricks to talk about in terms of combat here, but I'll save that for while we're going through Linton Forest. So there's a few other mechanics available to us that we don't really like to use in the speedrun. One of them is a super attack. So if you press jump and attack at the same time, just like with a lot of other beat 'em ups from the arcade eras, what that will do, it will slow the screen down. You'll do this wide arch swinging desperation attack that does a lot of damage. Unfortunately, it also damages you to use it, and because of the properties of the screen slowdown, we don't like to use it a lot. It'll also leave you in like an exhausted state. So when you use it, you'll do damage, yes, and you'll be invincible and all that jazz, but you'll also like kind of trudge around like you just ate a mushroom. So we really don't like to use that move. It's not very good. Zombie room again. These wisps operate very interestingly. Those little orb enemies, the way they function is, I almost got them. They don't move unless you put an input in for movement. I needed to remember the pattern there, so // There we go. And there's a lot of unique enemies like those wisps in the game, where like they have unique mechanics tied to your movement and a lot of reactionary commands based on what you do as a player. Taking a strategic block there just to make sure that we don't get countered by that lizard man. Lizard men are very mean enemies in the game. That spear gives them an incredibly long reach with one of the attacks they could do. There we go. Backup magic right here. Magic, like I said, is very important, especially for this chapter of the game. The final boss can't be beaten without it, so we try to take care to make sure we have MP for everything we need the whole time. The Mantis is not cooperating today, but that's okay. We got him. And one last section before we go towards our dragon, Clovis Fortress. Now, this is obviously our dad's fortress. Clovis is the last character of the last chapter. Gonna go ahead and take this back up, healing and MP up here just to be safe. Again, I'm showcasing marathon strats here. If I was in a speed run, I would skip those and say low HP MP be darned. We're going for it, get good. But I'd rather try to save as much time as possible while being marathon safe here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take those. In here, we're going to use the innate weakness of people wearing metal armor and gather everybody up here. Gather around, hear ye. The other knight was like, no, I'm not about it, so unfortunately we missed him. Going to go ahead and grab this key here. Do a backflip for cool movement. Sometimes you can gather all the enemies up if you get in their range, and sometimes they just like to stare you down, much like fighting an AI in a fighting game. I've been talking pretty much nonstop for 40 minutes here. Another instance of a room where there's a mechanic instead of having to fight everything in the room. And these rhinoceroses are very aggressive. They will chase you down, and the archers don't make things easier here. We're going to go ahead and do a bit of a backflip here. Unfortunately, bad positioning on the rhinos. Two of them got me there, but it's okay. We have a heal in the next room. Now, this is the last influential section of the run. This will determine your route, and you have to open this door. If you do not open this door, and you will instead be put on the Azos route and play a completely different character. But right there, we just saved Fauna's soul. We told her to go home. We'll take care of things from here. And we have secured our route. Gonna go ahead and grab everybody over here. These demon armors are here. Here we go. Gather everybody up. Hit them with a lightning attack. Lizard men really are not fun to fight. Gonna go ahead and grab some mind magic. Some backup HP. Clovis can be nasty. You can also work pretty well. Forgot to grab ice magic here. My bad. Can't skip this walk-in section right here before the cutscene starts. Really interesting choice by the devs. All right, so we're gonna fight dear old dad. He has fire magic in all of our previous combo sets. No sword anymore. That's what I was afraid of. Looking at, there we go. And now we're just going to do this. So very specifically here, I'm going to use the hammer blow attack to force him away from me for that very thing you saw. So he just used the desperation attack I explained at the beginning here, where he got slow and he did this big attack. And the reason we use hammer blow again is because the properties of that attack push enemies further away. And because of that, when he does a wake up super, I don't get hit by it. Getting hit by that move also like knocks you down. It takes forever to get back up from. So if at all possible, we like to not get hit by that. Here in the Linton Highlands, I get to showcase another really cool thing of the run, which is the fact that, one, sections can be entirely skipped by platforming. So by clever platforming here, instead of going down and up like the devs intended, we could just get a well-placed double jump up there and get past that little section. This section's a little harder here, so these mushrooms, yeah, got me. So these mushrooms don't care what height you're at. As long as you're within their proximity, they'll start their attack, and unfortunately the support attack is a wide puff that slows you if you get hit. Ah! Mantis flying in, RKO out of nowhere. Thankfully, the orcs aren't really anything to write home about. And we get full magic right here. So this is one of my favorite rooms of the run, and not because it's anything hard or complex or anything, but just because I love showing this off. Did you know, chat, that acid can see you? But if you turn invisible, it can't hurt you. So yeah, another cool property of these stealth magic there is the fact that if you use stealth, you can walk on acid pools. You can also walk on lava pools. In this game, and in this world, in this universe, acid and lava have line of sight, and if they can't see you, they can't hurt you. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. I am going to go ahead and open up my guide here for the game because there's a little bit of the routing here in this next section coming up that I need to remember. And I have notes written down here. So moving on to the heart of the volcano, which is our last section here. And again, these flaming platforms, you would normally have to cool off with ice magic and like use a very cool thing of like, oh, you use magic to manipulate some of the platforming in this game. But instead, we're just gonna turn invisible and dodge most of the traps there. Yeah, Joker, I'm gonna push buttons as hard as possible. But yeah, no, being invisible lets you walk on lava. It's just as easy as that, chat. You too can dive into an active volcano if you just turn invisible. The magic power pickup is our first instance of getting unlimited magic in the game, and it just does that. As long as our MP bar is blinking right there, we have infinite magic. Now it looks a little more spooky than it is, mostly because when you turn invisible with stealth magic, your indicator of where you are, where you're platforming, your shadow disappears. So it makes platforming very, very tricky. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of getting used to making those jumps while invisible. So now we're on to Hellfire and Inferno, the twin-headed dragon hiding out here in the volcano. Again, all dragons are evil. This one is impossible to fight without ice magic. Yeah, Dragon Valor is a classic, man. Goofed up a little bit here on the pattern, but it's okay. We have backup strats for that. There we go. So the idea is to try to hit them both at the same time. Their hitbox is not their head, by the way, it's the base of their necks. So I got the timing off a little bit on them. One of them is going to have slightly more HP than the other. That just means that when one of them dies, that half of the stage won't be useful. Yeah, we got to use our flare magic. There we go. Not a very complex boss fight here. And there we go. Gonna go ahead and switch the mind magic for our next chapter. And we finish this fight by picking up another instance of stealth magic. Or mind magic. No, we get mind magic too. Skip this cutscene. And so because we saved Fauna, she now considers us, instead of a ruffian, her knight in shining armor. She decides to marry us, and we progress to the next chapter of the game. We're just kind of cruising through this game here, chat. So Codell and Fauna settle down and have a son named Philip, and with him, they start their trading merchant business, and we'll pick up with Philip on the ship during one of his merchant trips. Why a merchant needs to have a magic dragon slaying sword on his mercantile adventures, I'll never understand, but it turns out to be for his benefit starting off here. So we're attacked on his ship. First thing we do is we blow up a lizard man, then we blow up a rhinoid. And I'm going to try to pick up a pendant here at the front of the ship deck. I don't think I'm going to make it quite in time. Maybe. Yes, got it. Awesome. So this is the last chapter before we pick up things, and fighting bosses gets a little crazy. So we wash up from the beach after our ship is, after we're tossed from our ship, we end up on the beach here as Philip. Now Philip's new addition to the arsenal is a change to the way he does his dash attack. Instead of putting the sword in front of him and dashing forward, Philip now does a backhanded dash. This makes the hitbox a little tricky to use moving forward throughout the run, but you just kind of have to adjust to it being facing outward from your character as opposed to being on your character's chest. Door hitboxes can be a little wonky. Bees are annoying. I was supposed to do a hammer blow there, but I accidentally pressed the jump button a little bit more than I was supposed to here, so now we have to deal with this hornet taking up a little bit of time. Unfortunate is what it is. So here we're going to use another instance of our platforming, and instead of going left, we're going to jump up to this specific jump and skip a bunch of that jump puzzle over there. So over here, we're going to use ice magic again. Ice isn't very useful in the run, except for in a couple places where it instantly kills some enemies. So these ropers, these are our first instances of enemies that instantly die when hit by magic, ice magic. Our next set of enemies are sorcerers. So you'll see some blue robe sorcerers pop up in the future. I will hose them down with a liberal amount of ice magic, and they will die in 1 or 2 shots. The same thing here with these Cerberuses. These Cerberuses are going to die to 2 hits of some liberally applied ice magic. One wanted to prove me wrong, but it's okay. And because of the heavy use of our magic in this chapter, we're going to see a lot of those scroll pickups to increase our maximum MP. So those little tentacle monsters there actually have a proximity timer from how close you get to them. Crabs. Crabs block ice magic. I'm gonna switch to mind magic here real quick. Blow up some crabs. I was told this is the optimal way to fish for crabs. And pick up our healing magic too. And finish this stage out. So with Healing Magic 2, we have an interesting mechanic added to our arsenal. From the point of Healing Magic 2 and up to level 3, you will now emit a little aura at your feet when you heal. Innocuous enough, doesn't hurt anything, doesn't damage anything except for undead. So if you heal yourself on top of an undead enemy, you will deal massive damage to that creature. More often than not, one-shotting them. The assassin, our Mantis is going ham here, really showcasing why we don't like him. And for some reason, this particular Mantis in general is scaled up to ridiculously high HP, so it takes a considerable time longer than most Mantises to fight. Grab some backup potions here. Here's an instance of that walk jump I just talked about in the last chapter. So unfortunately I jumped too soon after landing and was forced into a slow walk jump speed. Gonna try to blow up these lizard men. Unfortunately, like I said, with that spear, they can really catch you at a distance. Ooh, infinite magic, cool. So sometimes when I'm low in HP, I like to go ahead and just switch, then cancel out of the animation, get into the magic I need. So this room here, there's 2 strats you can do. You can pre-prep stealth and try to stealth through this acid pool, or you can do some very well-timed jumps. I'm going to try to just barely messed it up. I was trying to show off the very well-timed jumps portion. Unfortunately, I didn't well-time enough for that second jump. I was like a pixel off, but you can make both of those jumps without stealth. Back to lizard men. I've made enough time here to just use the tail end of my infinite MP to kill a couple of these lizard men. Not something you should rely on for every single one of your runs. That drop of infinite magic is RNG. Just to prove me wrong, the game dropped another one. That doesn't happen a lot of the time, but it can happen. Gonna go ahead and switch to stealth magic here. Stealth will also let you run through enemies, not be hit by enemy attacks. The only thing stealth will not help you with is combat. So if you attack while in stealth, you'll instantly break stealth. Another thing it won't help you with is if you accidentally pick up a mushroom. If you pick up a mushroom, it'll break you out of stealth because it's not an attack, it's an item pickup. And we're just going to abuse the lingering hitbox of that thunder attack to get double hits on those centaurs. You can't blow them up, they don't have a knock-up animation. So we switched to thunder for that attack just to avoid that. We're at a shop here that's unskippable. How's everybody doing, chat? I'm sure some of you popping in. Joker, thanks for stopping by, checking out the stream. Yeah, this is going to be for RPG Limit Break again, but I'll probably use this for other VOD submissions for other events. Shopping is slow in this game, terribly so, to the point where I can't skip it. So even if I tell this guy, no, I'll time, I still have to listen to him moan and groan and then talk about other stuff, and I'll ask him a question. So only not skippable part of this game. Love the music in this game, though, especially the shopkeeper theme. The shopkeeper theme low-key reminds me of Diablo music, like specifically Diablo 1. Like, it's a little bit more like of a brighter, cheerier version of the village theme. Tristram, I think. Tristram. I can't remember. Is it Tristram in Diablo 1? Fake fan. So here, unfortunately, we have to adapt. I forgot to switch over to my mind magic before making this transition. So we're going to try to run up and do a thunder attack instead. So while that village of shamans thing is on the screen, I can't switch my magic by opening up the menu because the game won't let me open up my menu. So instead, we're just kind of make do. Up here we have the only enemy in the game without iframes. These orcs do not have iframes at all. You can do whatever you want to them. They will not become invincible at any point. They are armored though, and they are bullying me a little bit. Usually they just like to kind of run up and stare at me, but tonight, not so much. This room's interesting. So it's the first instance of like one of the few instances of not needing to kill something to get an item to progress you forward, but you had to break that box to get that chalice, and that chalice acts as that trigger to open up that gate. There's a lithograph and a fire right here, and instead of having to kill these enemies, what you can do is if you do a well-timed dash attack up against them, you'll clip your hitbox into the underside of them and grab that tome there early, basically negating the need to kill that enemy. Save some time. Here's our sorcerers. The determination on whether or not you one-shot them with ice is dependent upon your range in which you hit them from. If you hit them at point blank, you'll kill them in one shot. If you hit them from any other range than point blank, you will instead deal a significant amount of damage, but non-lethal damage to them. So you have to hit them again. Switch back to thunder magic here. We're gonna have a couple centaurs. Centaurs always have this long kick up, start up. They're also notorious for running around. Thankfully, I've had some good RNG with them tonight, to where I have not got the running around versions of the centaurs. Sometimes they'll neigh and they'll run around, and it's annoying to fight them because they have crossbows. So here at the heart of the rainforest, we're getting ready to fight our next dragon boss, Thunder. Obviously, because of the name moniker, it is a thunder-based dragon. Gonna go ahead and use Fire 2 here. These mushroom enemies die in one shot from fire damage, so we are going to take advantage of that. because we have infinite magic waiting for us right here. This room also drops our upgrade for thunder magic. So we're gonna go ahead and take that, switch to stealth, because this next room has spike traps that we can run through as long as we're stealth. Did I mention how cool stealth is in this game? You can get around just basically any stage hazard element as long as you're invisible. Pretty neat. Up here we have our first instance of an item called literally just bomb. We break this crate and everything that's on the screen dies. No muss, no fuss. It explodes and kills everything. Now, if the enemy's not present on the screen, those crystal enemies can warp onto the ground and basically warp away. If they're not on the screen when that bomb goes off, they won't die. Oh, there's a first instance of accidentally hitting a mushroom to break stealth. Unfortunate, but it does happen. Grab this pendant for safety. Dodge the dangerous mushroom. Set up some mind magic, and here is our very first, very difficult enemy manipulation. This one relies on tight timing. If I don't get it, this will be a longer fight than normal. If I don't get it, I will continue the VOD recording just to show off what can happen in a marathon setting if I don't get the timing. But the idea here is, and I'm going to shut up when I start doing it, is essentially I want to time my mind magic attacks to hit his weak spot, which is his legs, at very specific points to basically lock him. And if I don't, we'll have to deal with very long attacks. Oh, missed the window there. We have a backup segment right here that we can do after this attack, thankfully. These attacks are very, very hard to dodge. And so what I'm doing right here is trying to get these mines to explode and hit his weak spot, to constantly have him do this counter. And as long as I get them right, he'll never break out of this, and we'll kill him just like this. I missed it. Missed my window. So this is phase 2. He would normally transition to this phase 2 normally anyways. And then it would have to go through one attack, but unfortunately, because I did miss that last one, this is going to be a slightly longer phase 2, but not very long. All things considered, not a bad thunder fight at all. Could have been a lot worse. Say hello to a demon we never actually fight in this route. So this route actually has one less fight than some of the others in terms of boss fights. Very, very convenient. On to the Pele Ruins. So this dungeon is our first instance of some of the annoying contrivances that the latter half of this game has, which is some dungeon padding. So in some of the dungeons moving forward, we'll have instances where we have to find a key or press a switch to then progress to the true end of the dungeon. So right here, I'm going to cut north, but normally you would run right and go through a couple doors and get basically to a locked door and have to double back and come up here. So through this route here, we're going to find a key, and through that key, we are going to basically get our exit. Annoying centaurs, but if we break this crate, we don't have to deal with them. No MP drop from any of them, unfortunate, but I think we have enough to get through our sorcerers here in the next room. Sorry if my voice sounds like it's getting a little hoarse. I have been talking for an hour straight. If the run does get accepted, I'll be sure to bring some water in with me to combat the dry throat. Right here is a really cool piece of movement, so even if we miss it the one time, we'll do it again. But essentially right here, what we're going to do is, instead of pushing this block back up to that flaming pillar and stopping it from flaming and jumping across, we're just going to time our jump to get across that gap from that platform. Very tight window right there. Basically, like you get a pixel to clip up onto that ledge. But very cool looking, if I do say so myself. Magic stingy. This is the makeup for that infinite magic I got dropped twice in that last level. It happens. Here we have our button that we have to push. It's surrounded by mushrooms. Normally I would use Thunder Magic to fight this next enemy, but because I don't have enough MP to use Thunder Magic, we're going to switch to Mind Magic. Does a decent amount to him instead. And it just is the route back up we have to take. Since a lot of the drops in this game are RNG, sometimes we can't get what we need and instead have to come up with backup combat strats. It is what it is. And this knight is not cooperating, but it's okay. Got some low HP here, but it's okay. We'll get some drops here in a second. Some guaranteed HP pickups are right around the corner. Right here. So, not worried in the slightest. This platform annoyingly starts at the middle of its transition, so unfortunately I can never catch it the first time through, and oh my god. It's positioned at a very specific angle. There we go. Or height to make it annoying to jump onto. Just something to mess with you there. I'm gonna grab this MP right here, come into this next room. So because we haven't really picked up any strength pickups, killing these zombies is a little more tedious than it needed to be. Gonna switch the fire magic here. Another instance of a route change in this room. Normally I would pull that block back to the center of the room, try to grab that lithograph, then jump back, and then jump out. That's since been made obsolete just because it is a little slow. 1, 2. So we're going to strategically position this block to act as a platform so we can get up here, grab this key. Yeah, 2 instances of a forced key pickup here. Drop back down to this block, and then if we time it just right, there we go, we can get up to this platform. And since we didn't move this block, we can just leisurely jump across. Easiest platforming in the game. Very tight window to get through both of those. But if we just drop down like this, we're good to move on. And now we're doubling back. Because we have such low MP for this next fight, this will take a little longer than it can sometimes, but we'll make it work. So this is the start to show off the most broken magic in the game here, which is Fire 3. So I'll give a short tutorial on how Fire 3 works. So that right there, you noticed, I hit that enemy with the explosion effect of the fire spell. Really not liking me right now. He's just kind of spamming that fire attack. But you notice it took like half of his HP. That is because the damage calculations for Fire 3 are very weird. If you hit the enemy right on with fire, it'll do its normal damage, which is a good amount, but it's not crazy. However, Fire 3 generates secondary explosions, and that explosion lingers. For every frame that explosion is lingering, it will do substantially more damage than the initial fireball hit. And because of its lingering hitbox, it can also get in multiple hits per frame. So it is really, really, really cool. And we'll use it basically for the rest of our boss fights moving forward, except for a couple instances here. But here we're wrapping up chapter 3. Here we meet the Princess of Gyrat and her knight retainer, Vilhern. Basically is like, hey, you got 2 magic swords now, and I have one of them. And you're like, no, finders keepers. So instead, you agree to go with her and help her cull an uprising, or basically cool an uprising in her kingdom, and essentially marry into the royal family, becoming the king of Gyrat. So gonna go ahead and swap discs here to disc 2. And like I said, I am doing this on emulation. Normally, this would be the spot where I pop open the PlayStation, pop in my next disc, wait for it to spin up. So, a little bit of time loss. When we calculate our runs on speedruns.com, the moderators, what they're instructed to do is to basically calculate how long it takes you to change discs, and then subtract that from your overall run completion time. Which is fair. So here we're on to our second to last protagonist here. This is Mihail, one of 2 twins, a prince and a princess of the Kingdom of Gyrat. So what Mihail adds to the table here is an interesting addition. So the Rising Impale, he now does a spin upwards for, which makes the hitbox for it gigantic. Honestly, one of the most cool looking moves visually in the game, outside of another that we'll get later. But all in all, a complete improvement over the regular Impale. This little spin up here, that hitbox is active the entire time going up. Spooky flames here. We do have to figure out the duck button. If you haven't used the duck button in the entire run, this room forces you like, hey, you need to learn how to duck or you're not getting past this section. No need for magic yet, so we're gonna go ahead and move in here. And so these doors right here, giant hands will come out and grab you if you get too close to them. That's why there's items next to them. They're basically wall masters from Legend of Zelda. Do a little cheeky dive under here and jump. Ah, too shallow of a jump. But yeah, if you jump high and fast enough, you can avoid that trap completely and basically nullify that entire puzzle. Gonna go ahead and switch the thunder magic here. And yes, we did all that for a key. So on our way back, I'm gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna dive under this, skip all of that nonsense. I'm not concerned about any of that. I don't want to deal with any of it. We'll just skip it. And we're gonna intentionally get grabbed by the ghoulies here. So go ahead and eat me. Oh, no, miss. Thankfully, we have a backup guy. And he puts us back at that magic mushroom circle from earlier, and conveniently right next to the magic pickup. into our locked door. So these more flaming platforms, we could turn invisible and grab them, but there's just magic, which we have full MP, so no need. Upgraded lizardmen, kind of annoying to fight. They have a breath attack now that does the stun effect. Not really having a good time with thunder here. We'll try it one more time if I can get it off. There we go. Huge hitbox on that thunder attack. No worries if I'm a little low on HP right here. We'll have some to pick up on the way up these stairs. Never mind. I'm thinking of different stairs. So we'll just top up. I am losing a little bit of time here on each of my splits, as you might have noticed. Just taking my time and explaining all these mechanics. Unfortunately, talking and playing at the same time is not difficult. It's just a little distracting for me, but it's not an excuse. I'm just not 100% used to it yet. I will practice in time. Hopefully be shipshape if this run is accepted, to put on a better performance. But again, all in all, still a fun run regardless. I hope it does get accepted. Kill the big guy for a key, and you would think you need to go right, but nope, that's a lie. That key doesn't actually open that door. We need to go press a switch on the other side of this dungeon. Again, another instance of needing to find something, to go grab something, to go find something. A little bit of the tediousness I mentioned for the latter half of this game. Here we have electric manta rays that fly. Really interesting enemy choice. Never quite get over them. I think this is going to be an instance where I don't have enough MP to do the instant kill on this enemy. And we are going to have to kill them the boring way, which is with melee. It's okay that we'll just get 2 attacks off. No big deal. Ooh, MP. Don't mind if I do. And unfortunately, because we don't have any strength upgrades yet, taking on the zombies is a little bit slow. But we're through them. And here we have our first instance of zipline coming up in this next room. So ziplines are interesting. There's cranks that you can use to wind them back up to the original starting position. We really don't like to use them because those are slow as all get out. However, you can, it is required later to do a mechanic with them, which is you can let go of the action button, basically the attack button, at any point while you're on the zipline to drop early. And it's actually required to do that in one of these upcoming levels. Cheeky hidden lithograph right there. Every point of NP counts for the end game there. Because the more magic we can use, the faster we can get through everything in this game. Not concerned about taking a little bit of damage there to save some time when I dropped down into that pool earlier. Because as you'll see, I strategically left a health pickup for myself on the stairs just so I can heal myself from that. Just like so. And I'm going to go ahead and switch the fire magic. Nothing's cooler than navigating a dungeon while you have prog rock blaring in your ears. Am I right, chat? Again, big guy, got a good pattern there. He can do that swing that I jumped over, but he can do a follow-up to it and catch me off guard. Really cheeky and annoying. Thankfully, he didn't do it. But yeah, every time you re-enter a room, enemies will respawn. Kind of annoying. It is what it is. Here's our next instance of lingering hitboxes there. Hitting those stingrays multiple times. I don't know if you caught that, chat, but they did flinch twice, indicating that they were getting hit. And these stingrays are actually kind of your first indicator that that mechanic, I mean, that the spell works like that, but we didn't catch on to it for a while. We didn't notice how cool it could be. So sorceresses, like sorcerers, have elemental weaknesses, but theirs is the opposite of sorcerers. They use ice magic, so we blast them with fire and we move on. Here's our restoration staircase that I was talking about earlier. But thankfully we're full up on resources. The deepest place. This is one of our more convoluted dungeons of the game. There will be a couple more like this, but these are kind of our longer stretches. Thankfully, still lots to talk about in here. In the second half of this game, you'll notice that we get more into the dungeon element of dungeon crawlers, and specifically, we come across a lot of like ruins and temples and things like that. And we also add in puzzle and navigation elements as opposed to just running from end to end from point A to point B. So the second half of the game, they really kind of take a turn and ramp up the level design of the game. So while the first half feels like, you know, Streets of Rage, the second half can feel a bit more like Legend of Zelda. So for instance, right here, that torch right there, I had to light by using fire magic. And then I can actually navigate up here, and if I time this jump, yep. So instead of having to wait on that platform, I can use well-timed double jumps to quickly circumnavigate that elevator and save me some time from waiting. That's probably one of my most practiced jumps. That's why I just kind of did it off memory. You'll see a key up here, and you're like, man, how do I get that key? We'll show you in a second. Here we have flaming platforms, and normally you would have to stop and put them out, but like I said earlier, if fire can't see you, it can't hurt you, so instead we're just going to pop a stealth, run past it. But even though fire can't see you, wind is a little more tricky, a little more perceptive. It can catch you. And so wind will still blow me up against the wall from those fans. But we run past these enemies because we don't have to fight them, and fighting is slow. And here's our instance of the zip line. Very nasty zip line right here. So you have to let go at a specific point. It looks I get that feeling, chat. And you know that little feeling of anxiety when you have to make a tight jump. I get that feeling to this day doing that zip line let go. Because if you miss it, you have to run all the way back through all those rooms to get back to that zip line and crank it back up to the top and do it all over again. It's very, very slow. So I get a little anxious every time I do that one. Thankfully, I've kind of mastered the timing, so I haven't had to do a run back of shame in a long time, but if nerves get me, it could happen. This block, it looks like you need to move it, but if you do some very tight platforming, you don't have to move it at all. You can make that jump very well. Again, that I made that look easy there. That jump is way tighter in reality. Like you get like a pixel of wiggle room there. In here, a very clever instance of level design here. You have to use an impale to break through the floor here, and then you get that key I mentioned earlier. So there's instances here, like one or two instances of the devs showing the intent behind some of the mechanics. Unfortunately, not a lot of them are used. I don't think you use that break through the floor mechanic again through the rest of this game. So like, while there is a really cool level design in this game, a lot of it sometimes just isn't used frequently enough. I feel like if this game was a little bigger, made in the modern era, we'd see more instances of that, but sadly, no dice. This is an old game that's probably never going to be touched again by Namco. Pour one out. So now we don't have to take the zipline again. If I wanted to take the zipline again, I would have to spend time at a wheel and crank it back up and then ride it all the way to the end. And I ain't got time for that. We run. Run past the big stone enemies that turn and hurt you. And again, this is like a pixel perfect jump. Thankfully we got it the first try. Thank you, Run Committee, for seeing that and making up for some of my flubs earlier. Here we're going to use Thunder Magic. Bully this big knight. We can actually push him into it if we wanted to, but... So a couple zombies here and our Imperial Knight friend we're going to hit with Thunder Magic. I was hoping he would be hit by the lingering hitbox, but unfortunately I was just a little bit out of his radius. So instead, oop, got hit there. Again, because I've been killing most things with magic here, we don't have any strength gems. So fighting enemies with melee attacks now is a little bit slower than in the previous chapters. So in that cutscene there, our retainer knight Wilhern is mercilessly cut down by a demon, unfortunately, in front of Mihail's eyes. Sacrifices himself to save Mihail. And so now we are going after the demon Halphus for revenge. And an unskippable shop here because, you know, after a tragic loss in my closest considered family, I would go shopping. But story-wise here, Mihail's basically gearing up for his revenge. And here's the greatest instance of showing how much time you can save by pressing start every time you transition a level. That walk takes forever if you don't press start and speed up your character's movement. A little low on mind magic here. We do have some backups though, so no worries here. Hornets and stingrays, but backup resources available so we can gear up for this next set of encounters as we go through here. Our first one being Rockchan. Everybody say hi to Rockchan. Bye, Rockchan. Very tight platforming there. Almost got that last jump. Unfortunately didn't. Ooh. Unfortunate clip into that platform there. Grab this backup health. Normally what I can do is I can abuse the double jump and jump basically across. Not happening tonight, however. Is what it is. We make it across, no problem. Back to our friends with no iframes, the armored orcs got to show off the Rising Impale's really cool property of having that extended hitbox from the start of your jump. You tell this sorcerer to cool off. Oh. Ooh, very tight timing right there, but we make it. Up to this door. Some lone mushrooms. And here's the downside to upgrading your magic. So every time your magic increases a tier, unfortunately, what also happens is its cost increases. So I'm actually going to, there we go. Trying to get them both together over here, but they are not wanting to pair up. Taking a little longer than it normally does, but again, enemy positioning RNG happens all the time. That is part of the side effects of this being like a 2D beat 'em up style game. Not exactly a puzzle here, but we do have to drag this brick across this room so we can make it across. I'm going to grab this backup MP right here. Should be topped off again. Lizard men again. Going to switch to fire 3. Backflip across to get to the sorceress, because she is the most dangerous target. And again, there's that flickering again from those lingering hitboxes, and we actually got a hit on this lizard man with the lingering hitbox. And for some reason, this is just an empty room that ends the level. I don't know why it couldn't end at the entrance of the last door, but that's how it's made. Music gets really epic here. So we're onto our first castle proper setting, onto a citadel with a pretty cool backdrop. Drop the drawbridge here. We got to go left first because, of course, to pad out the dungeon, we need to grab a key. Interesting little quote-unquote puzzle here. We're going to hit all 3 of these switches, and that will force a chalice to spawn. Thankfully, we can grab it on the way back. But I will take the free HP upgrade for virtually no cost whenever possible. There's our key. Unfortunately, no exit in this game, so I can't just warp back to the beginning. So we do have to make the trek back, but like I said earlier, because of that, you get an HP upgrade. So on to the second half here, now dictated by this lever, and I don't know if this is using the lever as a loading zone. If it is, it's very clever, very ahead of its time. But now, over here, we have to run against the wind at a specific angle, also not get slapped by the little tentacle plants there. More assassins, and deal with them just like we dealt with them last time, with a little bit of fire action. And again, magic as a reward. This one's defense 3, and again, we don't use defense in this run. Sad, it is what it is. Normally I would use stealth in here, but I'm low on MP, so we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way and run across, and unfortunately got clipped there. We can backflip across though. Give ourselves a little modicum of safety. Get through that room. There's a zombie here. Grab that backup magic. Fun fact, we don't have to fight any of the enemies in this room. Since we have the key, we just run up, open the door. Like a whole thing in that room to fight all the enemies, and you just don't have to. Here's our next boss, Grisamcius. Referred to as a demon, but you'd figure out his name later. He is another humanoid enemy that is immune to magic. So fight him the old-fashioned way. So while we take this fight, I do want to go ahead and touch base on the differences between the 3 routes, and specifically around the 3 swords that are the focal points of the routes. So Kadum, the sword I'm wielding right now, is a magic-focused sword. It looks like a tuning fork. Its the whole design is contingent on it being a sword more geared towards magic. The sword you use for the first half of the run, Azos, is a balanced sword. Really kind of has the aspect of a balanced weapon, both not excelling, but being decent at magic and physical fighting. And then the third route of the game, that weapon is Soul. And Soul is really a physical styled weapon. So it really kind of changes the routing for all the run. And because of how powerful magic in this game, it just makes the Kadum route more appealing. Getting kind of an annoying pattern for this enemy. But down he goes. Of course, he had to teleport away just to come back and do his death animation. On to the Demon's Lair. This one is a little bit tricky in terms of the start of the dungeon. So it's going to have these 2 very differently timed platforms. I got to focus up here a little bit just to make sure I catch them at the right times. So this one is slow, and it's to lull you into kind of a false sense of security for that one that goes really fast. So your first time through, that will catch you off guard, and you're like, whoa, 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 wait, and you'll basically have to 2-cycle that room. So again, because of dungeon padding, we have to come through here. We're gonna see a bunch of skeletons. We could heal up and defeat them, but we don't need to. Instead, we're going to heal up and defeat this zombie, because this zombie has our key. Thank you. In here, we're going to see our second instance of impaling through the floor. Again, underutilized mechanic, unfortunately. So the changes for Mind Magic, I never really touch base on them because I think we only really get like Mind Magic 2 in this run. But the whole idea behind the upgrades for Mind Magic, besides making it cost more MP, is you get to set up more minds simultaneously after you position them each time it levels up. Unfortunately though, the way we use Mind Magic, we never actually set up more than one. So the upgrades are kind of useless to us in the speedrun. There it is. So there's Stealth 3. Stealth 3 costs the most, but it also lasts the longest. Gonna go ahead and take this jump over here, grab this backup NP, slide down this slope, catch this platform. Normally I would stealth and run across here, but as a backup, I am just gonna go ahead and ride the platforms. Doesn't take that much longer. Grab that lithograph, hop up here, press the button, jump across, bada bing. Probably one of the coolest looking sections of platforming in this run. And through the Demon's Lair. Onto the force field now. Chat, can you believe it? We have less than an hour left in the run. This really is an action-packed run. Hopefully, you know, the submission committee that's reviewing this, hopefully you guys have been entertained, haven't checked out at any point during the run. I am trying to keep everything going as quickly as I can with my explanations to make sure that I'm touching base on everything as we go through here. Again, not a huge community, but you know, a loving one. A lot of nostalgia for this title. Really annoying centaurs. Again, this one got to show off that annoying little feature I was talking about there, where their iframes, they'll kick up and they'll get outside your hitbox, and it's all kind of annoying. Nah. Almost made it through that flame there. Unfortunate that I didn't. Is what it is. Thunder 3, this is kind of Thunder 3's segment to shine. A lot of enemies in here that are weak to thunder or just take like a ton of hits from the increased thunder and its explosions. There we go. That looked a little awkward, just because the way those beetles manipulate. Sorry, background tripped me out there for a second. I was like, what happened? I thought something visually was artifacting on my end. Is what it is. Again, everything respawns when you re-enter these rooms, so I am going to try to get through these as quickly as possible with sometimes the mosh pits you have to traverse. Navigate to my safety mushrooms here. And now we're on to the right side. So no switches to press, we just have to defeat the enemies on both ends of this dungeon to get the main door to open. Tricky coin is not actually safe. Sorceresses. That's right. So we just utilize some fire damage here. MP drop? Nope. Just mushrooms. Unfortunate. It's okay though, we have enough MP to get through what we need to get through. The devs are like, more flame traps. I made these flame traps, I want more of them. Use fire as soon as we walk into the room to get through those wisps. Nice aftershock effect, defeated one of the assassins. Not so lucky with the second one, it's okay though. Again, follow your trusty safety mushrooms, they will guide you through the fire traps. A bit of scary magic there, but no worries, we just run through it. Just run past your problems and everything will be fine. Backup MP over in this corner. I'm going to go ahead and take it again. Haven't been getting too lucky with my drops here, but thankfully there's tons of backup pickups that I can grab that don't cost me too much time. Rhinoid's going to go ahead and take them down with some fire magic. The way that their hitboxes linger. Here's perfect showcase of that awkward hitbox on this new slash attack. Yeah, while it looks cool, it can be a little hard to hit. And unfortunately, those crystal guards do have funky hitboxes tied to them. So moving on to a boss gauntlet, I would say. This level has 3 boss fights in it in a row. Well, not essentially in a row. There's a room separating the first and the second ones, but basically in a row. So these ghosts coming through my character are rather annoying. Thankfully, like I said earlier, ghosts can be defeated with heal magic, so we're just gonna miss our timing. There we go. And defeat this Crystal Guardian. Took a little longer than I wanted it to, but it's almost like this room was designed with that in mind, because they give you an MP pickup after defeating that Crystal Guard. Almost like they're expecting you to figure out and defeat the ghosts with that. Annoying mushroom placement. This room's a little funny. You don't actually have to fight anything in this room. You just have to run over here. And we're on to Krassel, our next boss fight. Now, this boss is another one that benefits greatly from the manipulation of fire explosions to deal damage as opposed to fire proper. Kind of show that off as we go. So the way Krassel works is Krassel will summon these skeletons, and then they will jump from platform to platform, ideally stopping on one of these platforms here. And then what we want to do is we want to hit the wall and then have Krassel be damaged by the shockwave of the fire damage from when our spell hits the wall. And what this will do is deal extra damage to the demon. There we go. As opposed to hitting them dead on with a fireball. It also has the added benefit of when we defeat Krassel, skipping their death animation. And it will then, because it skips the death animation, save us a ton of time getting through the fight. During the fight, we try not to prioritize fighting the skeletons and knocking them down, because Krassel will sometimes just be like, hey, I feel like picking up skeletons over and over and over and over and over again, which can be a huge time sink. All right, so Krassel's going to do one of two things here. It's either going to jump, good job, or it could have summoned more platforms. Yeah, but normally he like stands and he drops down. It takes forever, but we got the quick kill there where we killed him with a shockwave, glitching out their animation and quickly skipping to the next segment. So this room, you have some sorceresses in the way, but thankfully they start on that higher up platform. We only need to pull one of these levers in the room, so we just grab the one we need and get out. Another staircase, so we're on our way down. Again, analog controls help me save a little bit of time here, but because I can't get them working for some reason, I need to get the submission in. We're on D-pad, which is fine. I've practiced on it enough to reliably use it as a backup if needed. You got two big boys over here. I'm going to try to get them over here next to each other and then strategically put up some lightning. Got one of them real good. Unfortunately, the other one did not feel so inclined to get hit, but that's okay. We keep thunder magic on because the next boss is actually weak to thunder magic. I'm going to see if I can grab a defense pickup here as a safety backup without getting hit. Yeah, there we go. So here we're on to the chivalrous demon Halphus. He operates on a weird set of rules. If you grab the magic pickups he will start the fight. But if you postpone, you can actually get in a free hit on him early. Oh, messed up my dash up right there, but it's okay. Calculated. So right here we have a really annoying attack from him. Abuse some iframes if we get hit, and position him here in the corner strategically to hopefully get hit a couple times during this attack. Easy fight. Gonna switch the fire magic here real quick for a boss fight following this directly after Talon. Not a terrible fight. Getting hit once or twice by Talon Halphus doesn't cost you too terribly much time. So now we're immediately on to our next fight. Talon, who is feigned to be the true form of Krasil. We find out that is a lie. Talon is just a regular run-of-the-mill poison dragon. And here we go, abusing the shockwave property. So if you notice right there, I didn't get a ton of damage out from the regular fire attack, but the explosion from the fire damage, missed, did a decent amount, bypassing his normal defenses. Trying to time some of these hits. Some of them, his iframes are a little funky. Phase 2 here is a lot easier than phase 1 though, since there's a very obvious weak point of Talon's face now presented. So even if we run out of MP here, we can follow up on just strategically hitting him in the face. To wrap up the fight. All in all, that's a decent Talon fight. Not a bad one. Not a great one, but not awful. And just like that, we are on to the final chapter of the game, chat. Now, one thing to note here, our hero Mikhail victoriously throws his sword in the ground, mistakenly thinking that he has defeated Krasil, when in fact he hasn't. Krasil seizes this opportunity to steal the sword, and off screen, Krasil has assembled the other two Dragon Valor swords, allowing them to break open the seal to the underworld to free their master Dahaka, the final boss of the game. It is then implied that Mikhail suffers a mortal wound, and we cut to our final character, Anna, his twin sister, who is left the castle in search of him after not hearing from him or Vilhern in a very, very long time. So Anna's addition to the attack arsenal in the final edition of the attack arsenal of the game is when she does an impale, she will do a front flip as well, extending the hitbox of impale a good bit. This executioner can be a little annoying to deal with. He likes to dash away a lot for some reason. and then he just leaves you a mushroom as a gift. Very annoying indeed. Non-retracting spikes here, you just have to time your double jumps. I did not get jump speed on that last one, unfortunate. We will go ahead and abuse, so I am a little low on HP here. I will go ahead and abuse healing in this room. To damage all 3 enemies. And now we're in Front Flip City. So this is kind of showing off the extended hitbox. Her shockwave on her impale is also ginormous. Ow, took a hit there. But like I said, we can just get past that by increasing. So one of the things you might have noticed is I'm not doing any damage to this enemy's hardly. Like, I am just hitting them and they are not taking a ton of damage. That's because we have lost our magic sword, and it turns out magic swords are pretty important for doing magic damage. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to mind magic here real quick as a backup strat for the centaur, just to get her from stopping running around. If you time your attacks here between their iframes, you can get through them, albeit a little slowly. But seeing as which we had to use heals for that one fight with the demon, little understandable that we would not be able to finish that quickly. Normally we would pop a thunder magic, but had to rely on a melee backup strat there. So here we cut to the 3 magic swords floating above the seal to the underworld, to Crassel, and their machinations. We get a little insight into that. And there's a giant glowing portal behind Raxus Castle. Taking it back to chapter 1 here, we go back to the fallen kingdom of Raxus. You know, the castle is now in ruins. Gonna go ahead and switch to some thunder magic here. So the properties for non-magic swords are a little weird. Their hitboxes are a little funky. You do less damage with magic in general. You do less damage overall, and their hits also inflict less hit stun than normal. So that rhinoid that we would normally put down in like 2 hits instead took a lot of damage for us to put down. And just like with our first trip to Raxus Castle, a simple defeating of one enemy can get us in the door. Gonna throw up some thunder magic over here and try to lure these 2 knights back over here for the secondary explosions, putting them down for the count. So you might have noticed here, chat, where I've been blocking, and I've talked about blocking a few times, but I've never actually gone into detail about how blocking works. The way blocking works is a lot like Tekken. The same company created Tekken that made this game, Bandai Namco. It was just Namco back then. So the way you block is you hold neutral. You don't put any direction inputs or hold down run, or as long as you're holding no inputs on your controller and you're facing your opponent or the attack you wish to block, you will block it. This does not work on magic attacks, unfortunately. It only works on physical attacks. So like I can't block a thunderball or a fireball or an ice blast in the face. I can, however, block, you know, a sword swing or something similar. I think for a Mercy here, the devs tooled these zombies down a little bit. They are not nearly as strong as their other counterparts in the late game, so make quick work of them. So here we cut to Anna reuniting with Mihail. Mihail has been wandering after suffering that grievous wound against Krasil. He escaped, but is no longer fit to fight. Anna finds him, and he essentially encourages her to take up his fight, take up the fight in his stead, which she agrees to before he succumbs to his wounds. He does not die, but you know, he passes out. And here we have some very tight mana manipulation. So mana management over here, we're going to go ahead and see if we can't trigger both of these centaurs to come together and fight me in the same location, or roughly the same location, just enough to where they can both be hit by these thunder explosions continuously. No such luck, unfortunately, so we're gonna have to waste a little extra mana here, but the idea being, there we go. Now, the more damage we could do with magic here, the better. Magic scaling is not nearly as bad as our physical damage scaling because of the loss of our magic sword. So again, relying heavily on our magic usage on this later path, later section of the game. Here we have a Mystic Warrior, much like a Sorceress, but uses a sword, weak to fire, but also uses a combat style. More demons. Instead of using heal magic, which takes a ton of MP, I am going to go ahead and preemptively throw out Thunder in an attempt to significantly damage them. Unfortunately, taking a little bit of extra damage here. Winged demons are especially annoying to deal with before you get your magic sword because they can break out of any hit stun and just fly at you. It's unfortunate. Another part of the mana management here, so this room is dark. We have to light it up with fire, but we have to light this torch on the other side of the room. So throw this off screen right here and then quickly get over to this elevator before it rises. We can get that done quickly. Old school bats, but this is the big guy that I'm mostly worried about in this room. There we go. That's a much better instance of how that's supposed to work. We get Mind Magic too here. Again, since we don't really use Mind Magic, again, it's not that useful. And here, another platforming room. Again, going to go ahead and do some tight platforming. So if you time your double jump just right there, you can pick up that magic, that MP pickup before falling down. I am going to go ahead and double back here and get a safety health pickup down in this corner. I accidentally transitioned beforehand. And up here, grab their key and drop down. Again, another instance of having to basically perform a loop in a dungeon. So we have this Mystic Warrior again. Got good pattern there with the sword swing instead of her blasting us with magic. Really chasing us down here, but no worries. Unfortunately, getting clipped, looked over for a second. Getting clipped by that trap. So in here we have our first usage of thunder switches. So this room specifically is designed to where you have to use thunder magic. This bat just does not like me. But you have to use thunder magic to trigger a switch to open a door. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. I said grab, thank you. Then MP pickup. And here is a very spooky enemy of the run. This monster hits for tremendous amounts of damage. Like, I'm talking insane amounts of damage. I'm trying to, there we go, that attack specifically can take off like 20 damage. I mean, 20 HP. If I get hit by it more than once, that is basically run over. If I get touched by this guy at all, it's wasting a lot of mana to heal myself in an instance where I really don't want that to happen. So, again, just trying to make sure I manipulate their movements and do damage in a way that is strategic. But we're through the roughest part of the game, basically coasting our way to the end now. So we find out through a giant glowing suit of armor that the dragon slaying swords are actually made of angels, who basically converted their physical forms into those of the swords, and the swords are named after the angels that converted themselves. We are then approached by this giant armor, which turns out to be a fourth angel named Ignis, who then converts themselves into a sword for us to go face our final fight with Dahaka. So on this road here is basically our preparation road. You notice that we still have very low HP. We have a good amount of MP, but we just don't have a ton of health. This road forces like 2 or 3 health pickups to increase our overall HP, and just kind of gets us geared up for the fight. You'll see a couple power-ups thrown out along the road. That is by design. I'm gonna try to abuse the edges of the terrain here to get around some of these encounters. Again, we have zombies. And now, with our overhead impale, we can basically wrap up the fight, no problem, rather quickly, because it increases the range of our impale significantly with that front spin. This room's a little mean, sets you right on top of some mines. One more for good luck against the Cyclops. This room forces you to pick up this chalice. Again, the devs here basically like, you have to pick up this chalice, and it's all in an attempt to make you a little stronger before the final encounter. Abusing stealth magic here to get through this encounter pretty quickly. Gonna go ahead and switch to thunder magic here. You can take this fight on with thunder or mind magic. I like thunder just because it's a couple less inputs than mind magic would be, and I can just kind of leave him to idle while I pick up that MP. And actually I want to, there we go. Forgot to hit my split there, and that split is going to be completely hosed. I apologize. I'll fix it later. I was supposed to hit that split after I finished that initial chapter with Anna. So up here is going to be our first instance of offensively using heal. So these winged demons are going to pop down, you know, our friends, and instead we're just going to just put them out of their misery. One shot them. Kind of showing, this is where the game really gets to flex. It's like, hey, you have your magic sword now. Look how much powerful you are with it. This is where the game kind of flexes that lore at you. Safe dependent. Just kind of round out my HP. Again, a lot of optional enemies in here. We're actually going to leave these crates up until we leave. Because we need the key as well. again, the whole time just jamming out to this amazing soundtrack. I hope everybody's been enjoying at least listening to the music of this game. I love it. I think it's great. So here's where, you know, normally where I would hammer blow and break through those barriers. It's actually faster to just double swing and get past them. And you see these two crystal guards here. You're like, man, these guys are annoying to fight. Thankfully, that little slime there drops a bomb. Get through those guys instantly. In our last encounter in this level, a couple paladins and a mystic warrior. I don't know why these guys are trying to stop us, but try as they might, they just can't. We're too powerful. Unavoidable shop here. Yes, there are shopkeepers, even in the underworld. Man's got to make a living somehow, you know? Times are tough. You gotta make a living any way we can. Also, I am pretty sure the prevailing theory is this shopkeeper is either magic or immortal, or has strong enough genes to persist through multiple generations with the same hairline and everything. He really is a, I think the clothes are just passed down from generation to generation too. Never changes. Here we just casually tell this shopkeeper, yeah, the Lord of the Demons is coming back. He's like, I better close up shop and leave, and you better run too. It's like, dude, you are in the underworld. But I digress. This is the longest dialogue for a shopkeeper in the game. Thankfully, he is our last shopkeep. Truly a scourge of the entire run. If we could skip the shopkeeps, we would. But we can't. Our last forest level of the game. We ignore this tree entrance. Hopefully we never see it again, but unfortunately there's some tricky platforming in this level, so if we fall down, prep this just in case, if we fall, you may see me have to double back and go grab it. Ooh. Unfortunate. Really flexing her iframes there. But thankfully, getting past. Something weird happened with the hitbox there of that impale. Made that dragonette hit us, but it ran away. So, not a huge loss there. Gonna go ahead and hop over to this platform, hit a switch, hop back across, and get through. Here the game feeds us, again, more health pickups on the way to the final encounter and some HP. Here the game's like, here you go, use the mind magic, please. So we get the blasting. This game is a little, I mean, this room is a little tricky. Yeah, took a hit there, unfortunately, but the game is kind enough to drop a ton of HP pickups for the situation they put you in. Here we have some demon axes, our first and last encounter with them. Say bye. We'll never see them again. Assassins, again. Second verse, same as the first. Fireball. Just fireball. And the hit transition to end the level is a little funky. It's a little bit right before the door. You just have to wiggle into it. And on to our last dungeon of the game. So I hope everybody has been enjoying this. I have been enjoying commentating this run. I've hit a couple snags here and there of where I would normally get for a PB, but it's okay. I have been enjoying doing this, and like I said, this is just me doing this for a VOD submission. I'm not trying to hit a world record on VOD. I mostly want to focus on explanation and really trying to get people interested in the run overall, and trying to make sure that I'm explaining everything as clearly as possible, while, you know, providing some insight, because this is a relatively niche game. Not a lot of people have heard of it. Not a very popular game on the PlayStation, unfortunately. One of those hidden gems, in my opinion. I am biased, however, because, you know, I run the game and I enjoy running the game. So, the unfortunate part of Dungeons of Eternity is it can feel like an eternity getting through this dungeon. This one dungeon's runtime is like basically an entire chapter of, or half a chapter for an entire rest of the game, and that's because of a couple tricky issues here. So first off is these platforms right here, they fall, and if you don't navigate them correctly, you will have to reset that room. Same thing with this one. Thankfully, I managed to navigate them correctly. Unfortunately, I forgot you have to hit the switch first, which happens, so we will have to reset the room. Some of the hit detection for the ledges can be a little tricky there. And again, showing off how merciless that timing for those jumps can be. Again, if you jump on the same frame that you land, you will be at the mercy of a walk speed jump, which can sometimes get you stuck or cause you to miss time a jump. Thankfully, got through that no problem. A little hiccup there, but nothing run ending. Sometimes those pillars can do one of two things. They can wobble for a bit, or they could just immediately fall on you. The hitboxes are deceptively long for them, but thankfully Dungeons of Eternity know that you're in for a bit of a lengthy traversal here, so they pepper in a lot of pickups for you. While difficult, the game is not merciless in its execution. Another walk speed jump there, unfortunate. But yeah, the game treats you pretty well, as long as you understand what you're looking for here. Again, more sorceresses, so we switch to fire for instant KOs. And I believe we have a magic pickup of Blizzard 2, or Ice 2, which we never use. So we move on to the last of the 4 thunder switches you have to hit here. Again, the padding gets really extreme in this dungeon. We have to hit 4 switches before we can get through the front gate. Unfortunate. I have been trying to make the timing on that since I started running this game. I'm pretty sure it's impossible, but I've just never been able to hit it. I don't think I've seen anybody hit that cycle either. Really cool platforming right here. So instead of dropping down, you can perfectly time your double jumps to just go around that wall. Unfortunate walk speed jump. I am going to go ahead and grab this health pickup. Oh, never mind. No, I'm not. I actually am. I'm going to double back for that. There we go. More sorceresses, so we know what to do. Hit them with the good old razzle dazzle with the fire magic. They will then drop a key. Yeah, we had to push a switch to grab a key, to double back, to open a door, to hit a switch. And here is our final switch before we can go through the main gate. And thankfully the game is pretty forgiving. They do give you a lot of MP pickups, so if you were running low on MP before hitting those switches, they can make sure you do that without soft locking. Here the game teases you so much, so that drawbridge is open towards that door that needs a key. And unfortunately we have to lower the drawbridge over here and go to the right. And we basically have to navigate an entire second dungeon just to backtrack to this location to get that key. That's a better Crystal Knight fight right there. Old friends flesh demons, we're just gonna run right past them, don't need to fight them. And then our last line of defense for the first half of Dungeons of Eternity, the Mystic Knight. We just hit her with the good old fireball. And then we move on. So unlike in Chapter 2 when we had Codell, this room that we're about to go into with a bunch of starfish, we can actually use Rising Impale now that the hitbox has been increased, and basically instead of being just in front of us and upwards, starts on the ground. Or should be able to. Instead, I'm just gonna rely on backup strats here, because the hitboxes are being a little wonky tonight. And again, because they're so spread out. It takes a while to defeat them. Here's our first and only instance, not the only, but in this dungeon specifically, it's the only time we're going to see this platform, which has arrows on it, and depending on the direction, it travels in the direction you're standing on. In this room, we have an omnidirectional lever. The trick is to push it to the right to cause the key to appear. You can push it in other directions to lower these gates and cause other items to appear, but we really don't need any other items at this point. I love how over-designed this room is with like archers. It's like the automated archers are destroying the living archers. So back to our respawn friends, the much hated starfish. Now we don't have to fight them to get the platform to move. So now we're going to the east. Try to jump a little early to get past this platform as quick as possible. This statue monster is way easier to fight than the other one. This one takes multiple hits from mind magic. So it just goes down without a fight. It's considerably easier than the terrifying one you fight before you get a magic sword. I think the devs made that one like that just so you can kind of flex on it, maybe get some revenge if you die to it a few times. This room, we're going to make use of our stealth. Get past some of these flame traps. And since they pepper in those MP pickups along the way, we'll just take those. Those are basically free. I love the use of the environment to manipulate some of the enemies here into traps or taking damage. I think it's a really great design here. Much better designed room than our first instance of having the moving platform, because this time we could just hop up on a rock. Our old friends, the dragonettes, and again, we don't have to fight them, so we won't. We move on now to our lovely stealth showcase. Oh. Bit of a trip up there with showing off stealth. Sorry about that. Usually I can get that to pop off before getting swiped, but is what it is. And now for the coolest jump in the game, if we jump just right, skip all that platforming, and jump right over to where we need to go. So now we're back to the room with the key. Hop back up. Skipping all of this platforming that we had to do on the way down, but now we have to engage with a little bit on the way up. So we have to hit the switch to make a platform over here, move up and down. So we can go back through the room. But now we don't have to dodge platforms. Now we get to run on acid. Getting into a good position so it doesn't run out before we get to the end over here. And again, it's kind of tricky to navigate that without having a shadow underneath of you. So you really do have to rely on muscle memory to navigate that section of this dungeon. Unfortunate turn there from the dragonette. It could turn left or right with that dragon breath, and unfortunately it turned the correct direction. Bit of a 50-50. And we did that entire side dungeon just to grab one key. So we can open a door. On to our last big night. We're going to go ahead and bully him with some mind magic because for some reason they decided to not give this guy iframes. Unfortunate for him. There's our one key. I wish there was a way we can clip up to this, because you'll see when we jump down the entrance that we took to leave here. So part of me wishes, so that's the door right there. It closes itself after. It technically is a different level. I just wish they didn't frame it to where it's like, oh, you could get in here. If there was a way we can clip into that door The first time we come in here and like trip the loading zone into this last fight, that would be awesome. Another great bounty to put out for, but unfortunately the way the game's level structure is right now, you have to go through a level to get a door, get a key to go through a door. So on to Crassel again. Our final fight with the little demon. This fight is a lot like the first time, except this time the pillars have a little bit more health, so you might see me hit them more than once to get them to break. Good start this time. So Crassel can start by throwing out fireballs or raising the skeletons. This time they opted to just jump to a platform. Save me a ton of time. Raising the skeletons here. Gonna get one of two outcomes here. They're either gonna create more platforms, raise that skeleton, or they could potentially jump more platforms. And raises the skeleton. Cool, cool. So if you decide to fight this, like knock down the skeletons here, what can happen is you can waste a ton of time by Crassel deciding, I want to raise those skeletons back up. And here we go, the increased health to the platforms. Unfortunate as it is. There we go. I am gonna go ahead and swipe these two really quick. Oh, there we go. Lower the HP on them, so if Crassel does decide to jump, I can destroy them in one hit. Crassel does get a little jumpy here, unfortunately. Really likes to mess with you. And another glitch kill on the little demon. Nice to see a gold split there. But that's because of my messed up timing between the last chapter and this one. So ignore the sum of bests. That's not accurate yet. So here we have the big bad Dahaka. And if you notice there, I'm just kind of making mincemeat of this big bad dragon. What's happening here? Turns out iframes, the lingering hitboxes of fire do a ton of damage to the big dragon. So if you start off just spamming fireball, you will do considerable damage to the big lizard. Unfortunately, the same does not apply to phase 2. Gonna go ahead and take a safety heal here. Super beam. Dahaka does have a weak spot, which is their tail. It's almost faster, though, to fight them through their regular hurt boxes. Big fireball. Sometimes that hitbox can happen. And here's a good pattern to get him in. If you get behind him, you can manipulate this swing for every counter. Which is a lot faster than dealing with their normal attacks. Unfortunately, I am getting tails struck here, so I'm going to switch it up to throwing out a fireball really quick. And then for the final hit here, it does have to be one of the more powerful strikes. Oh. So this can happen sometimes. What can happen is the damage can glitch out. So what happens is if you don't finish out the Haka with a strong enough attack, his health will come back here. It's a very frustrating aspect of the fight, unfortunately. And just nothing you can really do about it if for some reason your hits glitch out like that. So what we think causes that is essentially the shockwave of the impale attack hitting instead of the actual impale. But that is time right there. Sound warning incoming. This is going to be a loud screechy sound. Didn't happen, thankfully. There can be if it happens, but that is Dragon Valor. Not one of my best showings, unfortunately, but I hope that is an interesting enough showcase to show, you know, the entertainment value that this game can bring to a marathon run. This really isn't terrible for a marathon style run, with a couple safety backups put in there just to make sure that everything goes smoothly. There's no major resets or anything like that. Current world records held by Uberfate, which is 2 hours, 19 minutes, 48 seconds. I am second place holder with 2 hours and I believe 23 minutes right now. So good time to make up. But overall, a great game, awesome action RPG to show up. One of the underrated gems of the PlayStation, in my opinion. So I want to go ahead and thank you all for taking the time to watch the submission. Hopefully you accept it. If not, I understand. And hopefully I'll accept it again next year. And until next time, I want to say thank you and have a good one.